I'm Nicole.
And I'm Jiu.
And this is Nicole and Jiu Live, our podcast where we talk about things we love, things we hate, and things we love to hate. And you know what we still love, guys? Manga. We're doing volume 2. This is part 2 of Twilight, the graphic novel.
They couldn't even fit it in one book. I was like, nothing happens in this book. They managed to fit it into 2 graphic novels. But you know what? They did a really good job. So I'm quite happy about it.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it at all. Like, I'm happy. I love, we talked last time, I think, about how much we were both really enjoying young Kim, the artist's kind of like interpretation of the story and like the things she was doing and the changes she was making. And all of that still very much holds like 100%. But also, I feel like they could have just smushed it together. Like, it's like, I literally think, and we'll obviously go into it here in a minute, but I literally think that there are like 4 locations in this manga. Like, it's like nothing freaking happens. Like, I mean, it does. Everything happens. Like, the whole plot really happens in this book, but nothing really happens.
Yeah, when we say nothing happens, we're not talking about Young Kim's adaptation of the graphic novel. We're talking about the Twilight book itself, of
In
how
general.
nothing happens that much, but yet somehow here we are making our probably 10th hour of content about this series. So
Yep. And we will continue. On this series, there's so many mineable hours of content in this series, but it's just interesting when you really step back and look at the story. I think we can probably just start.
All right, so the book opens with Edward in Bella's room, and she's feeling very self-conscious because he's been coming over every night. And I don't know if that was really addressed in the last book, but we're getting it here.
I really can't remember if, like, in the last volume of the graphic novel, like, he was, like, in her room, like, if it was, exemplified, but he has been. He's been WD-40ing her window already, guys. Like, he be all up in there, just watching her sleep, and she's self-conscious about it. I would be too, honestly.
They actually kiss in the scene. They're whispering sweet nothings to each other, essentially, because she's asking him, how come you can control yourself around me? And he's like, it's fine. I'm not gonna kill you. Probably, as he does. And he's just like, it's not easy to resist, but I'm getting desensitized.
I'm amazingly desensitized now to your scent. Yeah, great. That's what she wants to hear, Edward. Keep telling her that.
And then immediately after he asks that, he asks her to meet his family the next day. And she's afraid not that they will kill her because they are vampires, but that they won't like her.
Of course. I mean, I too would really want Alice to like me.
Yeah, Alice is so cute. She's easily the best one.
Easily the best one, and she has the best sense of style, I think, in this graphic novel adaptation. Because last time she was like wearing like cute little like kind of alternative clothes and like a dice earring and just being adorable. And like Alice in this universe particularly, I would be like, I want to be your friend.
Yeah, she definitely has the most personal style out of everyone. When they go to the house, Edward's wearing a black button-up shirt, gray pants, Bella's wearing a blazer and her knee-length skirt, and granted, we can't tell what color it is because it's in black and
I
white.
think it's the khaki skirt.
Exactly.
It's the khaki skirt, guys. The dreaded freaking knee-length khaki skirt. Oh my god. I can't even comment on it. Let us move on.
Edward mentions that he doesn't want Chief Swan to put a restraining order on him when Bella goes to the house. So he's trying to make a good impression, like he wants Bella to get back on time. And they end up driving there. We get some nice scenery, and they pull up to the house, and it's this big, almost Victorian-inspired 3-story, many windows house. It does not look like it does in the movie.
Yeah. I think it's probably like less than a manor house, but more than a regular house.
Yes, definitely more than a regular house, but when I picture a manor, I picture like those big long, like, sweeping walls and everything, and it's just not quite that long as a manor house.
It's I don't know, I like this better than the weird house from the movie, the architect designed house that described it to me.
You have to listen to our Twilight movie podcast to get that one, I think. Unless you are one of the privileged few who have watched it with audio description.
Honestly, privileged few is right, like, the audio description is so on point in the Twilight movie.
Yeah, even if you don't need it, like, it's another experience watching it with that because you get, like, all this other content basically that you aren't otherwise getting, so even if you've seen Twilight a million times, go and turn on audio description and watch it again and experience it for a new way for the first time.
Just for funsies, it is fun. Making accessibility fun.
It is fun. I enjoy it personally. They walk into the house and they see a big grand piano just, like, in the middle of the room of the entrance, and there's a winding staircase that goes up to the next floor, and Alice runs down the stairs very excited and just hugs Bella, just runs up to her and embraces her, which is very cute.
No.
I feel like that was very reminiscent of the time as well. The word glomp came to mind when that happened.
Oh, that is yeah, that takes me back. Oh my gosh.
Jasper comes downstairs and he's looking a little broody. He doesn't seem super happy to see Bella. And Bella asks about the piano, very conveniently placed. They don't even have to go into another room to see it. And Edward starts playing for her. And we get to visually see that he eats one of her tears, which is not further explained in this.
No, not at all.
Feels so weird.
Such a weird moment, and it's like, cause yeah, she's crying because like, his music is so beautiful, like, because we all know, guys, like, Edward has had the most time to practice the piano because he's never had a girlfriend before.
Oh my god, I was losing it when we were reading yesterday. I had a lot of questions about Edward's, self-abuse habits.
Like, prone to self-abuse, I think that was what Wake said about Winslow in the lighthouse. That's really funny.
I think that's why it was in my mind. We just recorded The Lighthouse, like, last week, so that phrase is rolling around in my mind.
Oh my god. Gia was like, "Does Edward do that?" And I'm like, "I don't think so. I think that the whole point because Edward says to her, not I think it's, like, in Breaking Dawn, so, like, we'll get there, guys, but it will be a while, so I'll talk about it now because he talks about in Breaking Dawn how the reason he's so good at the piano and all the other musical instruments is because canonically, all the other vampire couples are coupled up, right? Alice and Jasper, Rosalie and Emmett, and Carlisle and Esme. And apparently, canonically, they just all smash all night. They just, obviously, like, it's fun, I guess. And Edward's just like, I, like, never had a mate. So I have, like, had the most time to practice languages and practice music. And so, canonically, the reason that Edward is so good at everything is because he is a virgin.
And then that was what prompted me to be like, so he just doesn't do anything even by himself? And the answer must be no, because he's good at everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if he was fapping instead, like, he wouldn't be practicing the piano.
I think, Edward's a little strange.
You're just getting that impression? Like, now? At this point, you're just now getting that impression?
I was also asking yesterday, because I don't know if anyone here has heard this, but a thing where, like, bran flakes were made to get people to stop, doing that to themselves. So I was wondering if Edward consumes bran flakes, because he does say they can eat. Does he eat the bran flakes so he can focus on his musical talents and other talents?
And not be so prone to self-abuse. I don't know. I mean, I did make the point that I think that they're pretty contemporary, like Edward being a vampire / being born and cornflakes / bran flakes. So I don't know. You might be right, guys. Like, Edward might have helped invent bran flakes just to, like, curb his horniness.
Oh my god, fan fiction idea. Edward invents brand
We
flame.
wrote that down last night. Like, you put it in the
We
notes.
did? Oh my god, I forgot!
Crackfic idea, guys.
Bella starts asking Edward where Rosalie is and worried because she's been, like, standoffish, and Edward explains to her that Rosalie is jealous of her because she's a human.
Basically, Rosalie is jealous of her because she has a womb, like a functioning womb. We won't find that out for a while, but that's the reason, guy.
I have to quote this. Edward says about the house, "No coffins, no piled skulls in the corner. I don't even think we have cobwebs. What a disappointment this must be for you."
It's a disappointment for me as well. I will never not be disappointed. Like, it's literally all the fun accoutrement of vampirism. I mean, vampires don't have to be goth, but like, if you were a vampire, wouldn't you be? I would.
I thought that the outside structure of the house was at least a step up from the movie, which, if I remember correctly, was just a very hyper modern looking house.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I like the choice of the house a lot more than I do in the movie, than I do it even in the book, because I think, honestly, the movie might be a little more close to what they say in the book, because it does say in the book that it is a hyper modern style of house, which I just aesthetically don't find as interesting. So,
Yeah, it's what's expected.
yeah.
Edward shows her around the house and points out everyone's rooms, and I really wish that we got to see the
Oh,
rooms.
me
We
too.
don't. We see the stairwell and a hallway, and that's it, and it's just Edward pointing, but I really wish that we had gotten to see he points out specifically Rosalie and Emmett's room, Carlisle's room, and Alice's room.
What about Jasper's room?
He does not
They
specifically mention that
say
one.
Jasper, yeah, but why do Rosalie and Emmett share a room, but Alice and Jasper apparently don't? I didn't pick that up last night.
Oh, you're right. That's interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, what's in there? We have to know.
All of her clothes.
Maybe that's it.
Maybe. I love her. She's my favorite.
Then Edward leads Bella to this sort of shrine looking thing with little carved crosses and candles, and then there's one big cross in the back. And Bella asks if Carlisle collects antiques, and Edward explains that no, he carved it himself.
His father carved it himself. I think that I don't know. I think that this is like a low IQ moment for Bella, like in the book and in this version, because like, you're talking to immortal beings and you're like, "Oh, do you collect antiques?" Like, no, bitch. Like, why? Like, I just like, if they bought that, they bought it new. Like,
Edward leads Bella to a wall full of portraits, and we start getting the exposition dump that I had a problem with in the book too, because it's just this literal mouth spewing of words that just all comes out at one time, and I just think it's like a lot of information we get a little too quickly.
like, all at once. It's not delivered in a really interesting way either. It's kind of like done in the same way here. I mean, I guess it's like marginally more interesting because as a graphic novel, we're getting, you know, panels and pictures of like the story of what's going on. So we get like Carlisle's father and stuff, all of that drawn, which we didn't get in the book, obviously. But I do agree that like there probably could have been a more interesting way for us to like learn this stuff than Edward just like exposition dumping all over Bella.
It felt like a laundry list, like how people shit on when an author describes a character appearance and just lists everything almost in a bullet pointed list.
Almost like Stephanie Meyer does.
Well, you know what? Maybe it's a stylistic choice.
It's either a stylistic choice or just like that's the way she writes, and I don't have any comment on that because I am not a multi-millionaire author. I just feel like I could write it more interestingly, but I'm not a multimillionaire author, so I can't talk.
Same. I don't know anything, so don't listen to me. One thing I did like about the exposition in the comic specifically is that as we fade in to the memories and then fade back to the present, the comic is in color in the past, but only in shades of orange and yellow. So, for example, there's fire in one part, but even the shading on the people in the panels, it's all done in orange and yellow. And there was some splash coloring in the last comic as well. So
Yeah.
I liked that they included that here.
I do like the color choices that they make for sure throughout this whole graphic novel series. Like, because the first one was really, really cool, the things that they chose to color, and this one's good too.
So Edward begins describing Carlisle's father and how he hunted vampires and how Carlisle didn't want to just indiscriminately kill people for no reason, but he does end up finding the vampires in the sewers and ends up getting bitten by one of them.
He's smarter than his dad. Like, his dad was just accusing random people and burning random people at the stake, just like regular kind of like witch hysteria. But Carlisle was like smart and clever and good. So Carlisle found the actual vampires.
He ends up getting bitten, and it is mentioned in here that he hides in potatoes, and we get a shot of him laying on the potatoes in the cellar, and I was losing it a little bit because I'm happy we saw this because in the past I was having issues understanding how he was hiding in the potatoes. I'm like, is he in the potatoes like he jumped into a ball pit?
Like Chihiro in this giant pile of plushies with the big ass baby and speared it away.
Exactly. So that's what I'm imagining because I'm like, how else is he hiding in the potatoes? But here he's using it like a mattress. And I'm thinking if someone just walked into this door that is 10 feet away from the potatoes, they would literally see him. They would literally see him immediately. Is this an abandoned cellar? Do the potatoes even have anything to do with the cellar? Why are the potatoes there? Are they relevant?
Why is he just laying on them? Like, I'm sure they can't be comfortable. Like, they're not even like smushy, rotten potatoes. It's just a pile of potatoes.
Yeah, that's all we're seeing. I think he describes them as rotting potatoes, but I'm still having trouble understanding the significance of the potatoes.
You're not seeing the rotting potatoes. You just see regular potatoes.
I just see potatoes and I see them in a cellar and there's other things in here. There's a barrel, tools. Is no one coming in here? Whose cellar is this?
These are the questions.
This is what I want to know personally, but I will digress. I will move on. Carlisle gets up from his potatoes and we get a cool shot of him. So sorry.
I'm so sorry. I cannot.
The shot is really cool. It's him sparkling with the light coming in and his eyes are colored in red, which is very cool.
Hell yeah. Bring those cheekbones into our century, Carlisle. You can do it.
And then Edward describes the different ways that Carlisle tried to kill himself so he wouldn't harm any other humans. And there's another very beautiful panel of Carlisle crawling out of the ocean with a cliff in the background. Carlisle then goes into the woods and sees some bucks and finally realizes that there's another way to live. And then he goes to France and the rest of Europe to learn about medicine. And he had so many years and years to become desensitized to blood once he started practicing medicine that now the blood does not affect him.
Yeah, that's good. Carlisle, the panel where he's like crawling out from the ocean, I think the Twilight vampires can like just chill in the ocean. Like, I think they can literally like walk along the bottom of the ocean because they don't have to breathe. I could be wrong. We really need to get a copy of the illustrated guide. I think the illustrated guide will tell us these things and then I will know. But I'm like fairly certain that like Carlisle was just probably just sitting on the bottom of the ocean, just like chilling. He's like, this is not going to work.
I think that's what happened because Edward says very vaguely that it didn't work because his body is too strong and doesn't fully explain, but we do know that they don't need to really eat or breathe or anything, so it makes sense.
Have you heard the somebody's fan theory that Carlisle, when he was doing this whole like crazy self-hatred thing, swimming back and forth to different places, which they do sometimes also, that the Titanic actually struck Carlisle in the Arctic Ocean, and that was why the Titanic sank, because it struck Carlisle.
No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it's just a crackpick I heard somewhere that is like living rent free in my brain now. So I just thought I'd share it
What?
with everybody. Yeah, guys, Carlisle is to blame for the sinking of the Titanic. I think that that is canon.
I just realized Daddy Carlisle did not swim to France. He went to France, according to this comic. They do not explain that he
Oh,
swam.
they didn't say that he swam. This him swimming is the best part.
I know, literally, and I quote, he went to France and continued on through Europe to the universities there. No mention of him swimming there.
That's sad. That's like, and usually young Kim does such an impeccable job of including like the literal, like the necessary lines, like the things that it's just like it has to have because it's Twilight. She usually does a really good job with that. But I personally would consider Carlisle swimming to France to be one of those things.
I just would have loved one panel of him swimming and Edward saying, and so he
Swam
swam
to
to France.
I would have died. Like that would have sent me.
I also would have died. Carlisle was hanging out with the vampires in Italy.
The Volturi, yes. We haven't this is like when we first kind of meet them, but we're gonna meet them again more later in other books. So
Yeah, all they're really explained here is that they're civilized and refined, and they, and I quote, try to cure Carlisle's aversion to his natural food source.
oh yeah.
So he liked that they were civilized and all that, but he didn't like that they were trying to get him to feed on humans again, so then he goes to the New World.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, I don't like that y'all eat people still. And the Volturi are like, you're freaking weird. Why are you eating deer?
Yeah, they're fine with doing a little bit of murder. That's alright by them.
Doing a ton of murder. Oh, I can't wait till we meet the Volturi. And is that it is in the end of New Moon. I think it's in the next book. We will know. We will know shortly.
Once Carlisle gets to the New World, that's when he gets to the hospital. I do like the shots of him in the hospital standing over Edward, who he explains was dying. And so Carlisle saved him in quotation marks.
Of Spanish influenza. Edward was dying of the last American plague, like prior to 2020. Spanish influenza was like the big one.
Bella asks Edward if he's been with Carlisle ever since, and he says almost always, and then explains about his rebellious phase where he went off to only kill evil people and decided eventually that he couldn't get over the guilt, essentially.
Yeah, Edward's Ripper era. Like there's any Buffy heads listening, you will know what I mean. It's Edward's Ripper era. And yeah, he's just like I couldn't bear the moral turmoil of hunting like just people. Even though he could tell that they're bad, Edward just he can't take human life, guys. He's too good.
He's too good, and that's why Bella doesn't actually need to be afraid of him.
Yeah, precisely.
And then he comes back to Carlisle and Esme, and they welcome him with open arms.
They're good parents.
They are.
I think Esme is only just a little bit older than Edward too. So
Carlisle brings Rosalie to the family next, and then she ends up finding Emmett dying in the forest, and she drags him back, and the blood is colored in these panels where Emmett's laying on the ground and on his body.
interestingly, Emmett almost dies getting attacked by a grizzly bear. That's when Rosalie finds him and brings him back to Carlisle for Carlisle to change him. But interestingly to me, a grizzly bear becomes Emmett's favorite food after that. So I think that that's like a fun little Emmett tidbit.
I never put two and two together on that one, but I like that.
Yeah.
Edward goes on to explain that the younger they are, when they stay somewhere, the longer they can stay. So that's why they started over in high school, and tells Bella they're probably going to have to go to Rosalie and Emmett's wedding in a couple years again.
Again. I think they've done it a whole bunch of times.
That'd be kind of fun if you were still in love to be like, let's have a wedding again.
And if you had like more money than God, like the Cullens do, yeah, you could just literally like that would be fun. I agree. Like you could just
You could do a
throw,
different theme every
oh
time.
my gosh, that would be really fun. I would do that. Because I'm so torn. Part of me wants like a super goth, like all black affair, and then part of me would be like Sanrio characters. So
Oh my god, that'd be so funny. You should do, like, the ceremony one and then the reception the other.
yeah, that would be really cute. I say that like I have any plans to get married, which I absolutely do not. But if I did, those would be my decoration choices.
Well, if that ever happens, I will be there to provide some Sanrio stuffed animals for you.
Thank you. Yes, you do have quite a collection.
Edward explains how Alice found Jasper then, and Alice's gift about seeing the
Oh,
future, and how vampires take the gifts they had when they were humans and they're amplified when they become
or
vampires.
at least that's Carlisle's theory. And then Jasper, we really don't go into Jasper like at all. Jasper, the Confederate soldier. Like
I'm
Jasper.
going to read you the one panel that describes Jasper's background. Jasper belonged to another family, a very different kind of family. He became depressed and he wanted to wander on his own. Alice found him.
That is like literally nothing. Yes.
That's it. We just got like 20 pages about Carlisle, and then we got 2 sentences about
I
Jasper.
literally think that everybody is like, Stephanie, why? Why of all the he could have just been just some random frontiersman. Like it's just why make him a Confederate soldier? Like a highly decorated Confederate soldier. It's a choice. It's like a real choice.
Is there any information about when she came up with that headcanon versus when the original Twilight book was written?
Not to my knowledge. I would kind of like assume that she has very detailed backstories for like all her characters. And I'm really not sure if that was like she came up with that like initially, like when she made up all the characters, or if it like kind of happened more over time. But even in 2005, I think making Jasper a Confederate soldier is just like, maybe not as, like, actively, like I mean, the political climate wasn't as tense or whatever back then, I feel like, so maybe it was, like, a little bit more normal, but also at the same time, like, just why?
No, I'm definitely not trying to say it's, like, okay
No,
either way.
absolutely.
I'm just wondering if since Jasper's story was at the tail end of the exposition dump, if she just didn't know what to do with him at the time that the book was written and was like, I'll just give him, like, something mysterious, I'll figure it out later," and then, like, shoehorned in later that he was a Confederate soldier? Or what? Or if it was, like, her headcanon all along and she just didn't know how to write it and glossed over it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they do, like, mention just, like, so in passing in the Twilight book that Jasper was, like, a Confederate soldier, but it's literally, like, barely mentioned. It's honestly, like, in the illustrated guide and in some of the later things that you kind of find out more about that, I guess, but, like, Jasper Hale is a name that she literally got off the registry of Confederate soldiers. Like, he was a person.
Oh, so it had to be before. She must have had an inkling in her mind, at the very least, that that's what she was gonna do with him.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't it's not like it comes up. It's not like Jasper's like, "All hail the Confederate States of America," or anything like that, but it's just a weird freaking choice.
Yeah, it's really weird. Why would you even think to do that?
What precisely. Like,
I would never even cross my mind if I was writing a character to be like, they're a Confederate soldier.
anything else. Like, just make him a frontiersman. Make him a Western sheriff. I don't know. Make him
Oh, he
anything
should have
else.
been a cowboy.
That would have been hot. Like, I would be here for Jasper the cowboy.
Ooh, I want a cowboy. vampire cowboy.
You know, I wonder how prevalent, like, vampires in the Western genre is. I'm not really a Western girly, so I literally have
I
no
don't
idea.
read a lot of Westerns, I just like the outfits, the cowboy outfits.
Cowboys are hot. I do agree with you there.
John Marston, guys.
That's what I was thinking too.
Okay, I will continue. We will move on from this insanity that Stephanie has thrust upon
For
us
no
against our will.
for no reason. Okay.
Edward goes on to explain that Alice also has a mysterious backstory. We get a panel of her just sitting in the darkness. They don't really know where she came from. She doesn't know where she came from. Oh, we get one more panel about Jasper and about how he's able to manipulate the emotions of those around him.
Oh yeah, I thought like that's even a weirder power for a Confederate soldier to have. Like I don't know. It feels Jasper's character. I didn't think about it for like a long time. I think that like a lot of honestly, I guess I just never really I think like I said that it is mentioned in passing in the books, but like wasn't really gotten into. But I've been consuming lots of Twilight content online that discusses it pretty in depth and like all the like layers to the weird backstories for all the characters. And it's just such a freaking choice to make your vampire that has like obviously if they bring their gifts forward into their vampire life like as something that they were just kind of like good at as a human, that means that Jasper was really good at influencing others, like their emotions and stuff by just probably just like talking to them and stuff. So that's a weird power for a Confederate soldier to have. It just is.
The whole thing is just so deranged that we just, as a collective, need to just accept that this is really strange and fucked up
And move on.
and not think about it too hard. Yeah, because there's just so much insanity with this particular plot point,
Like I
even more than is usual for Twilight.
yeah, you could really drill down on that one quite far.
Moving on from the insanity, Edward shows Bella the rest of the house, and we do get to see Edward's room, which has a leather couch against a wall of windows, a shelf full of what looks like books and CDs, a very tall speaker tower, a tape player, some other music playing equipment, a little coffee table with magazines, and a plant. I kind of wish we could see what he was reading, but we can't.
Aw, that would have been fun. Have him reading a Jane Austen novel.
That would be fitting.
It would be fitting because he's talking to Bella right now and her whole she like just all she reads is Jane Austen, so it would be cute if he was also reading a Jane Austen novel.
It would, and then he'd be, like, trying to relate to her, and Edward discusses with Bella that he's relieved that he can just trauma dump on her all at once, and Bella's very happy about this, and tells him that he's actually not that scary, where he playfully jumps on her, and they land on the couch, and Bella's very stunned because this happened so quickly.
Yeah, he just kinda like leaps upon her.
He does. They're basically just cuddling on the couch, she's blushing a whole lot.
I feel like they cuddle more in the graphic novel than they do like maybe even in the book. I don't really remember.
Yeah, I don't remember in the book, but definitely more than the movie.
Yeah, agreed.
They're much more physically affectionate. I think they kiss more too.
Yeah, they definitely kiss more. You pointed out they were, like, kissing earlier, and I'm like, "That did not happen in the movie. They were not kissing in the scene."
No, they don't kiss until the end, kind of, right?
I mean, I think they might, like, peck once or twice, but yeah, I think they don't really kiss until the end.
Then Bella asks Edward about marriage and if it's the same for vampires as it is for humans.
It's Bella's weird way to ask if they can bang. We've we've been in this scene before. It's an odd choice, Bella.
Edward says that, yes, I suppose it's much the same. Most of those human desires are there, just hidden behind more powerful desires, like his desire to learn music, I guess.
Like his desire to learn music. Well, it's like that's why canonically, like all the other couples just like spend all night banging. Like it literally, it's crazy. I can't wait until we get there because I remember it, but not like exactly what's said. But I can't wait till we get there. It's literally at one point in Breaking Dawn, Edward is like, they all spend all night fucking.
Edward says that he
What?
can't do it with her though because she's like too soft and fragile. Alice and Jasper come in to interrupt them, and ooh, they included Alice saying, "It sounded like you were having Bella for lunch, and I wanted to see if you could share." And Edward says, "Sorry, I don't believe I have enough to spare."
I don't think he replies in that way, like, in the book, and I wish he did because it's very cute. Like, honestly, I do even like some of their interactions a little bit more in this version. There's gonna be another moment later when they're, like, on their way to prom and they're in the car, and I just find their interaction together, Bella's and Edward's, just so cute.
Yeah, young Kim gave them more chemistry.
Yeah. It's really sweet, like, I really love the chemistry between these 2 characters.
Alice having more personal style too. She's got her little lace shirt on. It's like a quarter sleeve with lace trim on the bottom and then a square neckline. And then Jasper's also wearing an interesting shirt. It's got like a mock turtleneck and then it's got an opening down one of the shoulders, but like buttons closing it, almost like a Chinese inspired top.
Wow, well, they're stylish. I'm glad that she made them stylish, and especially Jasper because, this is another just, like, canonical thing, is that Alice, I think, dresses the entire family. So I would think that she would pay special attention to Jasper.
Oh, that's really cute. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Alice tells them that there's a storm coming and asks if they want to play ball. And Bella says vampires like baseball, and Edward says it's the American pastime. So Bella goes home first to find Billy and Jacob there, where Billy is warning her that she needs to stay away from those there Cullens. And Bella basically tells him to fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah, Bella is like I their confrontation is more direct here in the graphic novel as well.
I feel like they must have given only a certain amount of pages and they need to like get it on the road.
I guess that does make sense, but it's interesting. I like it more here. I think it makes more sense than, like because, this confrontation in the book was very veiled. Like, neither Billy or Bella were, like, really saying anything.
Billy pointedly tells Bella, "I don't think you spending time with one of those Cullens is a good idea." And Bella says, You're right, it is none of your business." And Billy is telling her, "Oh, they have a reputation." And she's like, "I knew that. It's fine. Leave me alone," basically. So they very pointedly are discussing the Cullens.
Yeah, and I think that even when Bella's like, "That's none of your business," Billy responds like, "It might be Charlie's business, though." It's more pointed, I like it more, I think it makes more sense just honestly for the story. I wasn't a big fan of how, like, I don't know, I'm a more of a fan of direct communication just, like, in general, so, like, even in the book, I was like, "Nobody ever says anything in this book."
Yeah, they had a very direct conversation here. They drop off the fish fry that Bella eats with her dad for dinner, where she explains that she's gonna go play baseball with the Cullens. And Charlie, at this point, finds out that she's dating one of the Cullens. And I kind of didn't realize that he didn't know yet until this panel where he looks very surprised.
Yeah, and he thinks that she's dating Emmett, and he's like, "He's too old for you," like, really freaked out, and then she's just like, "No, it's, like, the younger one." I just think it's really funny because Emmett, I don't think is that much older than the rest of them, he's just, like, massive and has a lot of muscles.
Yeah, I thought they were all around the same age.
They are, I think, it's maybe, like, 3 or 4 years difference between them, like, any one of them, so
That could be a lot depending, but okay, but to Charlie's knowledge, they are all in high school together.
yeah.
So I'm thinking they're 2 years apart maximum, but I guess if Charlie doesn't want her dating, like how old is she right now?
She's 17, she's a junior, and Edward is
Oh,
also a
okay.
junior, so, like, in theory, what
So
you're
the oldest they could be is
is
18
18
in this.
because Emmett is in school, so, like, he's a senior, but, like, he's not that much older than her, really, so
Maybe Charlie doesn't want her dating
the
a legal
muscles.
adult.
Yeah, the
The
muscles.
muscle.
I think it's the muscles. I have been infected with saying muscles like that ever. I'm in the middle of season 5 of Buffy, and it has infected my brain.
Edward picks up Bella in the Jeep. Charlie looks a little exasperated, but lets them go. They kiss again here, not on the lips. They almost, oh, they do. They do kiss on the lips here. And then Edward pushes her away and is like, "You will be the death of me."
And I mean, that happens before. I don't remember if that happens before they go to the meadow or before they go to the baseball game. I actually think it's before they go to the meadow, but it's still, I don't know, they are a lot more physically affectionate in the graphic novel, which is cute and I think appropriate for it being a graphic novel.
Agree. Yeah, and Edward's kissing her neck and then kind of like gets close to her and then they kiss and wrap their arms around each other. I just feel like we don't see them. They just have more chemistry in this, I feel.
Like physical chemistry, which is super important.
Then Bella gets upset because she thinks that Edward's mad because he pushed her away and he's like, "I love you. It's not your fault. I just want to control my vampiric urges."
I don't want to suck all your blood.
And then that's the first time he said that he loves her. So Bella is all watery eyed. They arrive to the baseball field and they start going at it with the lightning and everything and throwing the baseballs.
This is where I should have been doing the little Muse song. It's just vampire baseball, supermassive black hole.
Then, in the middle of playing, Alice senses something and they all tell right away and start crowding around her. And then Alice explains that they heard us playing and it changed their path. And then Laurent and James and Victoria emerge from the woods, and all of their eyes are colored in red, which is very cool. And then also Victoria's hair is colored red. Laurent, I will say all of them have light skin. None of their skin is colored in. It is black and white, so we can't tell exactly, but he definitely doesn't look like he does in the movie. He's got curly black hair. James has slicked back, like medium toned hair. And then Victoria has really long, wavy red hair, which we only know her hair is red because of the one panel of her eyes where her hair around her face is red. And none of them are wearing shoes.
Yeah. Okay, it's so interesting that they chose to not, like, at least make Laurent's skin, like, a shade or 2 darker because that is okay, so apparently, the director of Twilight had to fight Stephenie Meyer to get the actor that plays Laurent, like, to be cast almost because in Stephenie Meyer's vampire universe, there are no dark-skinned vampires. Vampirism destroys any melanation in one's skin. It turns you white, essentially, even if you were, like, dark-skinned as a human, and I think that, like, she does say sometimes their skin can be just, like, a slightly darker shade of olive if they started out as, like, somebody with a darker skin tone, but I just, choices. Choices,
This is not looking good in combination with the
with the
Confederate soldier.
Confederate soldier thing, none of this is a good look,
It's not
Stephanie.
looking good.
No.
This is not. Jacob and Billy also, their skin is not really shaded.
Yeah, and also with Billy and Jacob, has it mentioned that they're well, I guess it did kind of in the first book because, like, Jacob was telling her the story of, like, the cold ones and stuff, and we kind of got flashbacks, so I guess there is sort of implied that they're native, but shading is possible in manga, is all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I know it's in black and white, but there is obviously comics with many different races of people. I think this could have been a little better.
Like, just shade it just a little.
Especially Stephanie in combination with the Confederate soldier thing. This is terrible. My god.
Yeah, and, like, just the fact that her vampires canonically cannot be it's just such a freaking choice, Stephanie. Like, you're out here making it hard for those of us who really love your stupid book.
When we started reading the first part of the graphic novel, there was a note from Stephanie that made it sound like she worked very closely with young Kim when making the comic, and all of this conversation leads me to question whose choice this was. Was this young Kim's choice? Maybe not. Maybe it wasn't her choice to do this.
Literally possible because like I said, I have heard rumors and we do not know how true these rumors that we just hear on freaking TikTok are, obviously. But I did hear a rumor that the director of the Twilight movie had to like basically fight for Laurent to be like a person of color.
That's really crazy.
Yeah.
He did such a good job as Laurent too.
I love the actor that played Laurent. I think he did a phenomenal job, and I love just his whole look, honestly. Like, I think black vampires are beautiful. Like, I I don't know. I like it as an
And it
idea,
literally doesn't change the story at all
literally at
to make
all.
him that way, so just let him be who he is.
Exactly. Exactly, and, I don't know. It's just a choice, you know? It really is.
I think we just need to accept that Stephanie's crazy, and like before, just know that she's strange and incorrect opinions are had by her, and maybe we need to move on or we'll be here all
And we're
day.
just gonna keep talking about Twilight.
Alright, Laurent enters and starts talking to them and is telling Carlisle, "We heard a game, we wanna play baseball with you," and Carlisle's like, "Well, we were just cleaning up and leaving," and then they all kind of can tell that James noticed something. We don't really get any indication of this other than a single panel of James's jawline and some motion lines around his nose. Edward picks up on this immediately, and they all start crouching and getting in fighting stances towards each other.
And Laurent is just like, "You brought a snack."
I have to say, when we were reading this, probably 5 separate times I'm reading it, and Nicole would, like, quote the book, and it would be the very next line that I was about to read. Like, she knew every single time, and that was right now. I'm looking at the panel, and I was about to describe it, and she already did it. She knows what I'm gonna say before I even say
It's just this story. I'm just so familiar with this story
it.
at this point. I can Twilight in my sleep, guys. It's a time for me. But, now we're here making this content, and so my very autistic focus is coming in handy. So
It was good for exactly one thing. Alright, Edward grabs Bella and gets in the car with Alice and Jasper, and they start panicking about what they're gonna do with Bella, and are like, "Where are we gonna bring her? Because James is a tracker." And Bella's like, "But what about Charlie? What are we gonna do?" And they come up with the whole convoluted plan about how, like, she's gonna storm out of Charlie's house and break his heart.
Oh, poor Charlie. I know. It's like every version of this is freaking sad.
Edward brings her home, and he's like, 15 minutes, you have 15 minutes, and I will reiterate, Bella owns, like, 3 shirts, it's not gonna take her 15 minutes, you don't need to be so worried. So she goes inside,
She's gotta pack the
it's
cactus, though.
she does, she needs to pack her cactus, that's very important, she'll have nothing else to remember Charlie by.
Or Arizona. Charlie and Arizona. Maybe she can stab
But did Charlie
Charlie.
give her the cactus?
No, I think she brought the cactus from Phoenix
My headcanon is that Charlie gave it to her at the airport.
and he's like, "Here, I bought you this cactus so you can remember your homeland."
Yeah, yeah.
That's better, I think, actually.
She's bringing the cactus back to where it belongs, Arizona.
She's like, "I have to take you home with me."
Bring it home. So Charlie is just telling her to calm down and it's like, "Your mom is gonna be back." Where is she going? To Phoenix
She's
again?
in Florida. She's in freaking Florida. She's in Jacksonville.
But he's talking about how if Phil doesn't get signed, then the mom's gonna go back to Arizona in a week. So he's like, "Calm down."
Like, signed in Florida. Yeah. And this the part with when she storms up the stairs and Edward's in her room? It's like, he's in her room. It's just like in the movie. We just noticed on our last watch through that when she storms up the stairs, he's waiting in her room, like behind the door, and you get like a flash of him.
Yeah, that's what it is here, except she slams the door, and instead of seeing it, like, for a flash of a second, she slams the door behind her, her back's against the door, and Edward's standing next to her in the room already. And they throw stuff in her suitcase. Edward goes back to the Jeep, and she goes downstairs, and she tells Charlie, "I don't wanna be trapped in this stupid, boring town like Mom. Just let me go, Charlie." And we get 2 panels side by side of Bella storming out the door, and then her mom storming out the same door while holding Bella as a baby. And then Charlie's just there in silence.
Was sad. Like, it's even
It
sadder.
was!
I think it's even sadder because you see Renee leaving him. Like, obviously, like in all other mediums, we can't see these things the way you can in a graphic novel, and I think that's one of the best parts about this because you literally like see side by side like Bella leaving and Renee leaving with Bella, like 14 years before, however freaking long. I don't know, but it's really just devastating. Poor Charlie.
I know, it's so much. Because in the other ones, I think Bella just gets in the truck and, like, references that that's what Mom said, but here we see Charlie think it and his reaction after she says that, and it makes it that much worse.
Yeah. Oh, poor Charlie. Justice for Charlie.
Justice for Charlie. Bella gets in the Jeep and confides in Edward that that was what Mom said to him, and I think she coulda just left, she didn't need to do all that, she's being so
She's
dramatic.
being extra because she doesn't want him to chase her, but like also like, ouch. Ouch.
But they're going to Arizona, he doesn't know where she's going.
That's true.
She coulda snuck out of the house.
I still
Edward snuck
stand
in and out of the house.
I still stand by that she could have just snuck out of the house and left and called him the next day. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because Edward coulda just picked her up and brought her in and out of the room when he went, and Charlie wouldn't have even known she was gone for, like, a few hours at least.
Yeah, and, like, I think that she says it so Charlie doesn't, like, call the police on the Cullens, but I think that, like, because Edward is gonna stay in town based on this plan, Edward is gonna stay in town. So, like, they have plausible deniability. Bella could have just fucking ran and then, like, called him the next day and been like, "I ran away," and stuff, but she obviously didn't go with Edward because he's still there.
That's true. Yeah, I think this just was not the best plan, I think it just was the most dramatic,
It
so
is
that is why it was
It's
included.
the most dramatic. There's something else where that happens again later, where it's just like, I mean, I have issues with this in every version of the plot, but like in the graphic novel specifically, it kind of like is a big kind of a plot hole that is just like this is the most dramatic way to do this.
Bella's freaking out in the car too, she's like, "Why did James decide to kill me?" And Edward just tells her that her scent is appallingly luscious, and that once he gets his eyes on his prey, like, nothing is gonna stop him.
I want someone to call me appallingly luscious.
You deserve that.
I do, don't I? Thank you. I think that I am.
You're appallingly luscious.
Thank you.
Your scent is appallingly luscious.
I'm gonna need the boyfriend to say that. Doesn't, like, have quite the same hit coming from you, but, still, I
I'll
appreciate
start
it.
dropping hints.
Thank you. Yes, we're dropping hints. Let him know. Let him know that I said that.
Okay, I will. Edward and Bella arrive back at the Cullens' house, and Laurent is there talking to them, and he's apologizing that James is going crazy. And Emmett's like, "We'll stop him," and does like the fist in the palm thing, looking all determined. And Laurent also says here that James is the leader, and then Bella puts 2 and 2 together that Laurent coming out and leading the group is just a facade.
Mhm.
And Laurent ends up leaving, and then they exchange cell phones and clothes, and they ask Rosalie to help, and she starts screaming about, like, "Why should I? She's just a menace."
I mean, you're not wrong, Rose.
They do end up convincing her to help, though, she's just not super happy about it.
I mean, yeah, it's fair, though, I feel.
I understand Rosalie's point of view because Bella is a stranger to her essentially. Like I know they know each other, but she doesn't give a shit about her.
Yeah, exactly, and she's, like, actively jealous of her for her functioning lady bits, so
Oh my god. I okay, so I haven't read all the way through Twilight. How does Bella have the baby?
like, at in Breaking Dawn,
Physically. Yeah, like physically, how does it happen?
it's a lot, cause like, she's a half vampire baby, right? Okay, so, like, I don't wanna, like this is we're gonna get here eventually, but it's so far in the future, and most people, I think, will be familiar enough. So, the baby's obviously half vampire, so the whole thing is that it grows really fast, so I'm pretty sure she had, like, a shorter labor and everything, and also the baby, like, killing her from the inside almost, and so she like, when she
Is it in the womb?
yeah,
So how come Rosalie can't have a baby in the womb?
because her whole body is dead.
Okay.
Bella is like a person with a functioning womb and, like, blood and shit and all that stuff, so she can have the half vampire baby. Only human women
Oh,
can
I see.
have, like, these half vampire children, which we do find out that it's little Rikki Tikki Tabi receptacle isn't the only one. But, only human women can bear the half vampire children because vampire
Okay.
women just are like, their bodies don't do that.
Interesting.
So Rosalie is just like, "Bitch, I want a baby." We don't really know that yet. We will find out kind of like Rosalie's kind of like sad story and why she wants a baby so bad, but like that is the core reason why Rose hates Bella.
So there's no full vampire babies. They're only made when someone is bitten by a vampire.
Yes.
Okay.
And then there's,
I
like,
understand.
the half vampire abominations such as Renesmee/Retina. slash Retina.
I like retina.
Retina's a good one, yeah.
There's a Facebook group where it's just a Twilight memes group, but anytime someone talks about her, they call her something different. But everybody knows. We all know what we're talking about.
Rasputin.
Rasputin. Not Rasputin.
That little Rasputin, um, that little recycling bin. Like, it's just anything with an R. Miss Little Renesmee there. We all know.
Alright, so all the Cullens split up, they go in their different cars. Esme and Rosalie are going together, and then Alice and Jasper are going together with Bella, and then Emmett and Edward and Carlisle are also all going together as the hunting
Yeah,
party.
they're staying in town at first to kind of, like, lead off Victoria and James. So, like, they're gonna be there for, like, a second, which is why I'm saying that Charlie wouldn't have thought, or at least it could have been plausibly denied that Bella left with Edward because Edward is gonna, like, stay in town for, like, a minute, and they're gonna try and have James follow them. Because Edward's whole thought process is he thinks that James will think that Edward won't leave Bella.
Yes, I think Bella just doesn't want anyone to think anything even remotely bad about any of the Cullens, though. So she has to make it 100% her fault with no ambiguity.
Okay, Saint Bella at work, Saint Bella.
Yes. They kept in our favorite part when Alice asks Bella, "May I?" in referencing picking her up, and Bella says, "You're the first to ask permission." And Alice grabs her and puts her in the car, and Bella falls asleep on her shoulder, and it's very, very
The
cute.
ship lives on.
The ship lives on indeed.
Alice and Bella forever.
Yeah. Bella wakes up in a hotel room, and then Alice comes in, and Bella's just like, "Has Edward called?" And Alice is like, "Chill out. It's fine." We get some panels of just the hotel room and its stillness, I'm assuming symbolizing Bella
Waiting.
being just so impatient and waiting, and she thinks in her head how them living for eternity has basically granted them patience because she's just freaking out and she wants to hear from Edward. But Alice is like, if we haven't heard from them, like that's a good thing. That means that their plan is still working. Then Bella ends up asking Alice how she became a vampire. And Alice is like, Edward's gonna be extremely angry if I tell you that. And Bella's like, "I'm asking you as a friend. I'm begging you."
Like, who fucking cares if Edward will be angry? Just tell me.
It was established earlier that Alice also doesn't completely remember, so she's like, "I can only tell you in theory." But she says, "The venom doesn't kill, merely incapacitating. It works slowly, spreading through the bloodstream so that once bitten, our prey is in too much physical pain to escape."
The venom is reminding me about how in the illustrated guide, I'm pretty sure that it says that all fluids that come out of vampires are venom. So when
What?
when Bella eventually will become impregnated, it is with vampire venom, which comes out of Edward's penis.
Oh my god. We need to read the illustrated guide because Nicole's like watching all this content and I'm not, so she just tells me things. And I'm like, what is happening?
I know.
What is life?
Queen Sarah Elizabeth talks on Instagram. I don't know if she will ever hear me say that, like, I bow to you, my queen, because her content is so good. She's giving me so many little tidbits that we will eventually get to when we read the illustrated guide, but we haven't gotten there yet. So I'm just sitting at her school, just taking notes, learning all of the interesting things that I can.
Yeah, all these weird things from the illustrated guide, I think it's through the lens of Sarah Elizabeth.
Yes. Yeah, it is. It's definitely like I'm getting it all from her, but I think that she's not lying. I'd be surprised. We'll have to read it
Oh,
ourselves.
no, no, no. I don't think so. I need the full context insanity that will be the illustrated guide.
Do you wanna order one, like, soon?
You can get it on, Playbooks.
We should.
You don't even have to get a physical one.
Oh,
We could get that today.
okay.
As soon as we're done recording, I can buy it if you want me to.
Alright, well, make a note. We'll loop back around in a few minutes, but let's finish this episode.
Or loop back around. So Alice goes on to describe that for most people, turning is their most vivid memory of being human because it's so excruciatingly painful, but for whatever reason, Alice just doesn't really remember. And then she starts getting some sort of memory flash, and she says something has changed, and that's when she starts drawing the mirror room. And I have things to say about this scene because I'm almost positive that in the book, Bella sees Alice's sketch and is like, "Wow, that's the ballet studio I used to dance
You are
at."
correct. That is exactly what happens.
So in this one, Bella says, "It looks like a place I used to go for dance lessons when I was 8 or 9. It's shaped just the same. I'm not sure. I suppose most dance studios would look the same. I haven't been there in almost 10 years." So I thought that that was just such a more realistic reaction because it still made the connection. It still gave us that plot information that we needed, but it wasn't like, that is definitively from this rough sketch that Alice made in like 5 seconds. That is definitely this particular place that, like, probably, like Bella said, looks like every other similar place
Dance
that
studio.
does dance.
Yeah, and I think the thing that makes her say that in the book is she's just like, "The phone is in the same place that it was," and I'm just like, it's just a really weird thing to be that sure about.
And if she was 8 or 9, like, she's probably not gonna have a super clear memory. Like, I don't have clear memories of shit like that when I was 8 or 9, and she
Oh,
says she was terrible, so she probably didn't take dance very long. I don't know, it's just it's too plot convenient the way it happens in the
it
book.
completely is because that would be like me being like, "I remember the exact layout of the O to Be Kids where I used to take ballet lessons when I was also 8 or 9, and I do not."
But same, where I took, like, 2 ballet lessons and I didn't like it and I never went back, and I remember vaguely that it was in a classroom. That's literally it, nothing else.
Yeah.
But I think that this got the exact message we needed across. We didn't lose any plot information. It's just a more realistic reaction.
It is, it is. They always used to stick me right in the back. I took dance classes for, like, we at least had recitals, but they would put me all the way in the back because even as a child, they were like, "She is too uncoordinated for people to watch her dance." Like, I
Oh,
have been like this since I was a small child.
no.
I am Bella, guys, just blind Bella, that's me.
Canonically Bella. That could be, a series in itself, Canonically Bella. That sounds like a sitcom.
That does actually, that's a good title for something. Good job. TM, 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 guys. TM.
TF, TF was recorded here first. We have the timestamp. I forgot to mention that Bella and Edward had their phone call right before that, and Edward talks about how they lost James, so that is very concerning for everyone. Then Bella asks if she can call her mom and just leaves her the message being like, "Don't go anywhere. Call me when you get this."
Stupidly is like, call me at this number when you get this, and leaves a message on her home phone machine, even though Charlie told her that they weren't going to be back till the end of the week. I think that's like such a stupid thing for her to do in this particular situation where she's being stalked by a fucking crazy killer vampire.
Yeah, I think she needs to not give any extra information about the people she cares about, which she's giving all of it. She went to Charlie's house, she called her mom. I probably think that it would have been best if she had just not contacted any of them because I know they're related, but there is a chance that she doesn't give a shit about them or is more concerned with her own self-preservation than her family's self-preservation.
The whole thing is, I think, like, she's worried about Renee because she could come back at any moment, but Charlie told her that Renee wasn't going to be back until the end of the week. And I don't think it's the end of the week yet. And Renee is in Jacksonville, Florida, which is honestly probably one of the safest places to be from a vampire. One of them, maybe not like the safest place, but like it's pretty
It's in the
funny.
Sunshine State.
Yeah, we are the Sunshine State, guys. I don't think there's a ton of Twilight vampires just like running around Florida.
I haven't seen any.
Me neither.
As anything's possible, I might walk outside one day because that's what Bella did. She just ran into a vampire one day.
But that was in the Olympic Peninsula where it's like
Yes,
dark most of the time. Even Edward earlier in the book was like, "Why do you think we live in the Olympic Peninsula?"
that's true. That is a very good point. I don't think the vampires are choosing Florida.
No. No, probably not. The literal the this is not a detail that is mentioned in the graphic novel at all, but when Phil, Renee's husband, does get signed to a baseball team, it is literally the Jacksonville Suns.
Yup.
So just, just funny.
Bella turns to see another sketch of her mother's house after they have their phone call, and she's freaking out. Or not after they have their phone call. After Bella calls her mom, she puts down the phone and sees a sketch of her mom's house and starts freaking out because she thinks that James is going after her
Is it
mom.
the outside of her mom's house or the inside?
It's the inside. It looks like a living room. There's a couch off to the left, a window in the back, some blinds.
And like a TV with a cabinet?
There's no TV. There's something that probably is some sort of cabinet or shelf, and then there's a small table in the middle of the room.
It's just interesting because we know that James was in her mom's house to like get the tape that he uses to lure Bella to him. And also that is how he got Alice's number because Bella literally called and left Alice's number on the answering machine in the house where James is, and Alice can see that he's like at least is been or is going to be inside Bella's house or Renee's house.
So Bella starts freaking out, and Alice looks at Jasper and wordlessly is asking him to calm Bella down. And Bella pushes him off and is like, I don't want to go back to sleep. And then the phone rings, and it's James doing his evil shit, being like, can you trick your friends? Can you get away from them?
This is the part where I was like, this is another like big kind of like a plot hole. I think I have talked about this before in previous incarnations, but it was even a little better done in previous incarnations because it's literally just that Alice walks into the room basically and hands Bella the phone. How the heck did James use that recording to get Alice to hand Bella the phone unless it's just her going, Bella, Bella, but like, why would that just Alice is too smart to fall for that. And then also, as soon as Bella gets on the phone, James starts talking while Alice is still in the room. I guarantee you that Alice can hear him. Like, could
This is
hear
the
him.
biggest plot hole of the whole book,
It
I think.
is. It's a huge plot hole actually because it's made very clear that like they would be able to hear that. Like, it's not like, even like a person, you can hear when you're like standing next to somebody who's on the phone, you can hear what the person on the phone is saying. And we're humans. We are humans.
That's so true, I didn't think about that. And I try really hard to suspend my disbelief for books because I just want to be in the story and not think about it too hard. I'm like, if you can explain this away in like 2 sentences, I'm good. Like, I'll suspend my disbelief for the story. But this is just so far out there. I've tried to gaslight myself into thinking this makes sense, and it just doesn't.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. I'm not as good at I mean, that's the whole thing. When in theater class, they teach you it's like one of the first things you learn about is the suspension of disbelief and how that's an important part to partaking in any kind of storytelling. But stuff like this takes me out of it big time because I'm just like, that just doesn't make sense and is very easily work aroundable. Like, you can just have Bella go into like the bathroom or something. Even then, I think Alice's hearing is good enough that she'd be able to hear it still, but like, you would have a little more plausible deniability, I guess.
Yeah, I think they just need to rework the whole scene. I don't think him calling her and doing all this is the way. I think maybe Bella needed her own cell phone and she needed to go to the bathroom and he needed to call her right then.
While she's away from everybody. Yeah, that would have been better,
Yeah,
like, than this because
maybe that would have been too coincidental though.
but yeah, because it's just like, how did he use that recording to get Alice to hand the phone to Bella? Like, how? It just like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, unless it's just her going, "Bella, Bella," and that, like, makes it but that Alice is too smart, wouldn't fall for that. I just don't believe it.
No, like, did Alice even say anything?
Anyways, we're thinking way more hard about this than even Stephanie ever did, I think. But will stand by that, like, this is one of the parts that makes me the most mad because it just literally doesn't make sense.
Yeah, this is another time when we just need to woosah and move on because it doesn't make sense. We're accepting
What
it
is
and we're moving on.
what is Woo-saw? I'm unfamiliar.
Woosah woosah is like you just gotta like, like woosah,
Okay,
and then you're calm.
okay, alright, okay, I get it. Yes, I'm going to try and bring that into my being right now.
Yeah, I just gotta calm down and, not think about it too hard. The first time I read it, I didn't think about it hard. I was just like, "Yep, that's what happened," and the more I read it, the less it makes
And the
sense,
more you
so I'm
think
going
about
to
it, you're
stop
just
thinking about
like,
it.
"No."
Alright, so she gets off the phone, gives a letter to Alice, and is like, "Give this to my mom," and it turns out it's a letter to Edward, and then there's tears next to the letter, and it's very dramatic, and then they go to the airport, and they're barely at the airport, and she goes to the bathroom, and Jasper stands outside waiting for her, and we get a bird's eye view diagram of the bathroom, and if you listened to our book podcast, you heard me have a breakdown about the bathroom, but we see that the bathroom has a second exit.
Okay. I just woo-saw. Woo-sawed you. That's all we could
Musa.
do.
Yeah, because it just doesn't make sense that both of them would just believe her and not pick up that she's, like, doing something fucky. Again, moving on.
Moving on.
Ella makes it to the ballet studio where she sees the TV and the camcorder on top and James standing there very coolly with his hand in his pocket, and he starts talking shit to her.
Playing the video. It's playing the video that he used to get her there.
James does say here, "Isn't it better that your mother didn't really have to get involved in all this?" I feel like I don't remember what he says, but Bella before wasn't scared, and James was irritated about that, and Bella was like, "I'm just glad my mom wasn't really in danger," and that wasn't in here. He just starts talking about, "Oh, is your boyfriend gonna avenge you?" And Bella was like, "Well, I asked him not to, so hopefully not."
Of course he won't, because Edward is, like, so reasonable. He's, like, such a reasonable person that, like, he definitely like, I asked him not to, so he won't.
It says here that James heard the message when he got to her mom's house. So Bella didn't even call her cell phone. She called the house.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's how he got the number and also the tape
Yeah.
that he used. But he got because she left that message on that answering machine being like, "Call me at this number," and gave her Alice's cell phone number.
It could have been the caller ID. She just shouldn't have called at all.
No.
None of this would have happened if she didn't call her mom.
Well, this is in 2005, let's remember. Like, so I literally think that the
Did they
only
not have caller
I
ID?
don't think that they had, like, call logs, like, on home phones.
I think they did, but you had to, like, pay extra for it to the phone company.
We never had that. So, like, you know, like, caller ID, yes, you could see what number was calling when they called, but you would have to, like, leave the number on a voicemail because at least my phones back then never had call logs. You might be right that you could pay for that, but my family never did that.
Might also depend on the phone that you had. This is like we don't even remember. We don't even remember what the phone technology was
How
like.
old were we in 2005? Literally 7?
In 2005? Something like that.
Yeah, okay, so, wait, 3, 7, plus 7 what is 7 plus 5? I can't do math.
12.
I was 12. I was 12 in 2005, 12 or 13.
Well, the point is we were children, we were not paying the phone bill, but I have a vague memory that, like, if you wanted to, like, get the caller ID, you had to pay more, and then that's why we didn't have the caller ID
Yeah.
because we didn't wanna pay more for it, which makes sense.
Most phones didn't even have screens back then, like home phones.
We see the phone here, it does have a screen. It's, like a phone dock, and then it's a cordless phone.
Oh, with one of, like, the little screens above the numbers?
No, it's like the phone panel itself, like, the phone dock has a screen,
Oh, okay,
and
yeah.
James is standing next to it, and the phone is placed on the phone.
It's whatever it is. It's I don't know. 2000s phone technology is not what we're here for, but
This is like the all this was high tech, it's like the phone and the answering machine combined.
oh my god.
Oh my god, okay, enough derailing about the phone. He got
He's obviously listening to the messages.
he listened to it, he's standing next to the phone, and then this is how we should have gotten everyone's exposition, where he reveals just in a brief context that Alice was the one that he was originally hunting, and we get some backstory that stands out and is much more better told because it wasn't in, like, a gigantic wall of text.
Yeah, I agree. That's just hard to kind of, like, get through and parse, like, in the same way. When it's delivered like that, I do like this a lot better, and I think that, it's just we don't need, like, the story from so many angles. Like, James could have just given it to us here. Like, Alice could have just been like, "I don't really, like, know why I am or how I got turned." And then we could have found it out here.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Then James starts beating the shit out of her, throwing her against the walls and, like, breaking her
He
leg.
stamps on her leg. Oh, that's the most visceral part in the movie to me.
Oh my god, I know, it's really visceral in, the comic too, because there's, like, crunch and a snap and she's screaming, it's really a lot.
Ugh.
And she's just thinking, "Let it be quick now," and then suddenly Edward is there to be there for her, and he sucks the poison out of her hand.
Oh, yeah, it's like everybody just appears and she's like, "Oh, the angel," and then he's there, and then Carlisle's like she's like, "My hand, it's burning, someone put out the fire," right? And then he, like, just freaking I still can't with the sucking the venom out of her hand. I'm just like, that doesn't even work with snake venom. But okay. Okay, guys.
Yeah,
Alright.
it's, like, not even real. The further we get in, the more we have to just accept that this is the way the book is, and we don't even see everyone appear, it's just Edward and Carlisle, but we see flames in the background, and we've all seen the movie or read the book at this point, so we know what's happening, and then we see just a couple panels of Alice and Emmett and Jasper by the fire and some motion lines by their hands. That's it.
We don't get the really badass part where doesn't it isn't it Alice that, like, jumps on his back and, like, wrenches his
Yeah.
head in the movie, which is, like,
Yeah.
one of my favorite parts.
That was one of my favorite parts too. They give Alice a lot of cool stuff in the comics, so I'll give them a pass, but I am here for Alice just killing that man in cold blood.
Yeah, same. Especially because he's the one that he was hunting her and stuff. It's like it's a full circle moment for Alice's character.
Yeah, it really is. That's her girlfriend. She has to protect her girlfriend.
Yes, she has to protect her girlfriend so her brother can marry her.
Bella wakes up in the hospital, and Edward's there holding her hand, and Bella immediately starts apologizing.
Of course.
And Edward's like, chill, it's fine. And then tells her that her mom's in the hospital, and Bella's like, well, what did you tell her? And Edward's like, you fell down 2 flights of stairs and through a window. You have to admit it could happen. I feel like they added it could happen.
I feel like that's usually what I say when that line comes up.
Yeah, I've heard it, but not canonically in the book, and I was happy they added it.
Yeah, same.
Bella's leg is broken, she's got cracked ribs, she's bruised, and Bella's like, "Well, the window's not gonna be cracked or broken." And we actually get the panel of Alice jumping through the window when Edward's explaining that she, like, fell down the stairs and everything, and that made me very happy.
And didn't you say that Alice has like a huge grin on her face? Like,
Yeah, she's, like, smirking.
yeah.
She's very pleased with herself in this one panel, and I'm just happy that we got that in some medium, because every time I'm like, I want to see the joy on Alice's face as she just destroys a hotel.
Yeah. It sounds really perfect.
Yeah, Edward explains that Bella fell down the stairs and that he was coming to Phoenix to talk some sense into her, so his image is preserved just the way Bella planned all along. Then her mom runs in.
And Edward pretends to go to sleep. He's like, I'm sleepy boy now. How does Renee look?
Oh, Renee looks like a standard middle-aged woman with light short hair. There's nothing too distinctive about her. She's wearing a small bracelet on each hand, and she's wearing a quarter sleeve shirt and a necklace. Wait, she's wearing the necklace sometimes.
And some
I think it was maybe forgotten in a couple panels.
okay. That is a little strange, but all right.
Yeah, there's nothing too distinctive about her, is the main point. And Bella asks where Phil is, and then her mom starts talking about how Phil got signed and how Bella's gonna move back to Jacksonville, which I just thought was a little strange. Like, I know Bella did ask where he was, but Bella's mom kind of just comes in and is like, oh, good, you're awake. I'm gonna start talking about myself now.
That's literally Renee's prerogative. That is her whole thing. Like, we don't really get it's not as explained definitely in the graphic novel as it is in the book how Bella like raises her mom basically and Bella has to be the grown up and like Renee is super irresponsible and like all this stuff and like Bella's been taking care of her this whole time. Like you don't really get as much of like self-sacrificing Bella in the graphic novel. It's more about like Bella and Edward and like them and their relationship than it is more about like the other stuff from Bella's life. So you don't really have the same, honestly, quite negative impression of Renee that you do like in the book. And I mean, Bella never, of course, has a negative impression of Renee, but it's just like as a reader, you're just like, so Bella raises her mom?
This scene alone left a bad taste in my mouth, though, because once she says Phil got signed, she's like, "Oh, you're gonna love Jacksonville," and then Bella immediately has to start defending that she has to not has to, but that she wants to stay in Forks, and she's like, "I have friends and a boyfriend and all these and Charlie needs me." And I'm like, "You woke up like a minute ago. You just woke up and your mom just stormed into the room and made all these decisions for you and didn't even ask you about it and didn't even really talk about what happened." Like, I know that she kinda knows what allegedly knows what happened already because of Edward, but if that was my kid and I hadn't seen them awake, I wouldn't just start going on about like, "Oh, by the way, you're moving across the state. Again, let me talk about my boyfriend." I'd be like, "Holy shit, are you okay?"
Yeah, like, how are you? Tell me about, like, what happened. Because you're exactly right. Renee has not seen her awake in honestly, in ages since Bella moved.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I know that she probably has heard the story secondhand, but doesn't she want a firsthand account from her daughter of why she stormed off to Phoenix?
Yeah, my mom would. My mom would be on me like honey on a bear with that one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. My mom would be like, "Bitch, what the fuck is wrong with you? What is happening?"
Yeah.
Renee's just a little exasperated that she wants to stay in Forks for a boy, and then she's like, "Oh, my boyfriend's supposed to call, I need to leave," and then she leaves! I hate Renee. I think seeing this in graphic novel form, I knew she sucked, but this really made me like, "Wow,
Renee
she sucks."
Renee does suck. Renee's like an awful, like, role model, caretaker, mother, just the whole thing. She doesn't really seem to, like, think that much about Bella literally at all ever. So, and I mean, that's true in this and in the book and in the it's always true about Renee. So it's really kind of ridiculous that Bella fucking names her child partly after her. Like, give your child a real name, Bella. Your mom sucks.
Her mom in the graphic novel does not even ask her if she is okay.
Yeah, not even once. And she's just like, the whole thing. And I would assume, just personally, I would assume that, like, Charlie, as much as, like, that was a really hard interaction when Bella left, I would assume that Charlie, like, immediately called Renee to tell her what happened because that's, like, the child that
Yeah.
they share. So, like, for Renee to literally, like, not mention any of that and for, like, to just have heard the story secondhand from Edward while Bella was unconscious, and then for her not to even be like, "So, are you sure about this boy, Bella?" is beyond the freaking pale. Like, Renee just in this just doesn't care, it seems like, at all.
No, like, she literally comes in the room and is like, "Bella, I was so upset." And Bella's like, "I'm sorry, mom." And then Renee starts talking about Edward and how Edward's been there, and then starts talking about Phil. And like, she does not even say to her, "Bella, are you okay?" And Bella could then say, "Yeah, mom, I'm fine." And then that would at least lead us into more conversation. That just, ugh.
It's not great. It's really not great. And Renee is honestly never winning a Mom of the Year award in any version of this story for sure, but, like, it does seem particularly egregious here.
Yeah, it's just visually seeing it in the panels that brought it to life a little bit for me, even more so than it did in the movie, just this version.
Yeah. And I honestly, I'm kind of trying to recall the scene with Renee in the movie, but I think that even in the movie, she was like, "Bella, are you okay?"
Yeah, I think I gave the movie a little more leeway because I'm like, "Well, they did have to cram the whole story into 2 hours."
Yeah.
But
And also, I don't know, it came off differently because you could really hear, like, the actress really put some concern in her voice when she was talking to Bella and
yeah,
stuff. Like, it came off differently.
exactly. Exactly. One funny thing that happens, though, is before she shuts the door to Bella's room, she says, "Do you remember the dance studio around the corner from the house? Someone broke into it and burned it to the ground. There's nothing left at all."
I wonder who did that.
And then Edward gets up and Bella's like, "How was your nap?" And he was like, "Interesting." And then they discuss if Bella moved to Florida. And Edward's like, "Well, I shouldn't go to Florida because you need to like be safe away from me." And Bella's like, "That's stupid. I'm not leaving you."
It's too sunny for me. I should not go to Florida. Edward shouldn't come here. It's a bad place for him.
And then Bella's pissed that he didn't let the venom spread. And Edward's like, "You don't know what you're asking."
Maybe she does.
She's concerned that she's gonna get old and age and die one day, and then Edward's still gonna be Edward.
It's a valid fear.
And then Edward does call the nurse, and Bella is given medication against her will, but they've had so much chemistry throughout the whole book that it just doesn't come off as weird here to me because it seems like he's a little bit more in tune with what she wants. Granted, she says absolutely nothing about getting medication here, so it's still a little strange.
I almost get you because they do seem like they've got so much more of a connection here than they do in even, like, the movie, which is crazy because I'm pretty sure Kristen and Robert were, like, dating when they filmed that, but, like, okay. Uh,
Maybe that's why she cheated on him.
well, she didn't cheat on him until, like, later, like, till she was in Snow White.
Yeah, but maybe they didn't have chemistry.
Oh, yeah, maybe it's just because 'cause they just didn't yeah, because they did I think they were together for a few years, like, it was a while. I think the whole reason that, Kristen Stewart maybe even got the role, or maybe this might just be complete scuttlebutt, but I have heard, somewhere that the reason that Kristen Stewart got the role of Bella is because her and Robert Pattinson were dating.
Oh, really? They were dating
Like,
before?
I think that they might have been, yeah, like, boyfriend and girlfriend, like, when like, before and then, like, into the movies, and then I think through the whole series, and it wasn't until Kristen Stewart was in Snow White, that she cheated on him with the director of Snow White. Like, I obviously don't know the ins and outs of anything that happened before that, but I do know that that was when they, like, broke up the big time, for real. And I don't remember what year that was, but it was definitely after Twilight.
Snow White came out in 2012.
Okay. Yeah, so it was probably, like, the year after. I think that, like, Breaking Dawn Part 2 had, like, just been the year before.
Wow, was Twilight the glue holding their relationship together?
Maybe, and also maybe, like, Kristen not realizing how gay she was. I'm so here for her as a person. I love her so much.
I love her too. Yeah, I'm not trying to shit on her, but I do think it's funny.
I do think it's funny as well. Yeah, no, I think it's very, very comical, but I genuinely like, I love her. She's, like, really, really cool.
I just think Young Kim did such a good job of giving their characters just more chemistry. Even as she's falling asleep, Edward's like, "I love you," and she's like, "Me too," and she's kind of fading out. And I still think the nurse should have asked Bella, like, "Hey,
Like,
this is what we're doing. Are you okay with it?"
directly, yeah, because Edward was literally just like, "I think it's time for more medication."
Yeah, so it is still a little weird. I think I'm just giving it a little bit more of a pass here. But as she's falling asleep, Bella says, "I'm betting on Alice."
I would
We
too.
kept that in.
Always bet with Alice.
And then they go to prom, and they're just in the car. No Bella walking down the staircase, no reveal. She's in the car, and you see on one foot she's wearing a heel, and the other one she's wearing a boot. And now that I'm thinking about it, her legs are probably uneven.
Yeah, yeah, have worn a boot before in high school. I sprained my ankle really bad and I needed to wear one, and you can't wear anything but flats with that thing. I guarantee you that.
Well, she's wearing a heel. She's betting it all on this heel because she knows she's clumsy and she did it anyway.
I just literally cannot picture her just like you, because you know when you like your feet aren't even and you have to like bend one of your knees really high to walk. I'm just picturing her doing that.
That's what she's gonna have to do. And her prom outfit's cute. She's wearing like an off the shoulder dress with a necklace and a flower in her hair and earrings.
Their whole interaction in the car here is super cute. I think I mentioned it earlier that just it's the chemistry of these two literal illustrated characters is really evident. Like you can see it in a way that I don't think it is so much in like even the book. Even the book, to be real. Like they're both a little frigid in the book.
The least amount of chemistry in the book, to be honest.
Yeah, because there's everything is just kind of flat. I don't know. It's just not you don't feel the chemistry. All it is like them being like, "I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you more than anything. I love" it's just like but they don't really, like, show it effectively.
That's so true. Because in the movie, when we watched it, I remember being like, Robert Pattinson's version of Edward is the Edward that people love. No, like, I don't think people even like Book Edward that much.
Book Edward is a freak.
He is free.
He's like a virgin freak.
But graphic novel Edward is charming, and he, in this scene, calls Tyler to say that Bella will be unavailable every night as far as everyone besides himself is concerned, and that he's sorry about his evening.
I do love that they, like, did bring that back because I do remember them talking about it in the graphic novel, like, when the like in the first volume when Jessica and it wasn't Lauren, Jessica and Angela were with Bella at the dress shop was when they were like, "You know that Tyler's been telling everyone that he's taking you to prom." And it was just like
Oh,
such a
yeah.
throwaway. It didn't really have the whole like scene where Tyler's like, "We always have prom," and like the whole thing that was in the book
Came back.
and the movie. But I love that they did bring it back because I really like that part. I think it's funny.
At that point, Bella realizes Edward's taking her to prom, and she accuses him of taking her to prom. And he's like, "Well, what did you think we were doing?" And Bella's like, "Well, I'm gonna break another leg. Look at this shoe. Look at it. It's a death trap," and sticks out her foot. And Edward is just like smiling and looking at the high heel.
And he's like, "Remind me to thank Alice for that." Even though, like, let's ignore the logistics of her walking in a boot and also a heel for the moment. Edward likes it. Edward thinks it's cute. And he's like, "Remind me to thank Alice for putting you in this dress." But this is what I was talking about, where it's just like the chemistry of them talking in the car is like so genuinely cute.
It is. And then they get there, and Edward's like, "I won't let anything hurt you, not even yourself." And then they go in to dance, and I guess we didn't get a ton of the side characters in this one, which makes sense, but we see the dance floor, and Bella's like, "This looks like a horror movie waiting to happen," and she's sighing. And Edward raises an eyebrow. He's like, "Well, there's more than enough vampires present." And we get Alice and Jasper dancing, and Rosalie and Emmett dancing, which is very cute. And all of the men are wearing tuxedos, and then Rosalie's wearing like this super low cut plunge halter dress that's like long into her
Would
ankles with
that be
heels.
appropriate for a high school dance? Let me ask you.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. The plunge is down to, I'd say, the bottom of her rib cage. Not quite the belly button, but it way past the boobs.
Yeah. My high school would not have let me wear that dress.
Same. They would have told me to go home and change.
Yep.
And then Alice's dress is really cute. It's a V-neck with like a strap going across the collarbones and then two cutouts on the hips that come to a point towards the center of her stomach. And then there's a point in the front of the dress and then it like swoops back. And then she's wearing a wristband. Oh my god, I just noticed that.
Alice has the best style in this entire graphic novel. I am glad that young Kim, like, drew her with really cute outfits.
Yeah, and she's got like strappy heels on, so just like all of her outfits have like that little touch of personal style that I'm just like, yes, I'm here for
Yeah.
this.
It's honestly better and not that the vampires didn't wear good clothes in the movie. Like, they were fine. Not exactly to my taste, but they were fine. It was a lot of, like, designer stuff and things like that, and obviously the Cullens have a lot of money, so that makes sense. But I personally like the idea of their style being more atypical, and I think that it's kind of supposed to be because, like I said, Alice canonically dresses everybody. I think she's been to design school.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
I love that for
This
her.
is all information we will find in the illustrated guide when we get there. But yeah, so it's like Alice is supposed to have like really cool, quirky clothes. And I do kind of feel like young Kim brought that in here like a little. They're like a little bit maybe normal-ish. Like she's only like maybe slightly alternative, but it's at least something.
But I love those ways where you can make a normal outfit memorable and detailed in a way that fits the character that I feel like most characters don't get in books like this or in movies even. And I love that she was able to bring that to Alice.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think that, like, her being, like, a little bit more edgy is better than the choice they made in the movie, which is just to have all the Cullen stress and designer stuff all the time.
After they walk out to the dance floor, Edward pulls Bella and is like basically just urging her to dance. And she's like, "Edward, honestly, I can't dance." And he's like, "Don't worry, I can." And she stands on his foot with her heel and just holds up her boot. And then Jacob comes over and asks if he can cut in. And Edward looks very irritated and walks away. And then Jacob's sighing and looks very tired. Says like, "Can you believe my dad paid me $20 to come to prom?"
I, uh I can, and I like this part. I'm glad that Jacob is, exasperated and stuff, like, I think this part is pretty cute. I just wanna go back for just 1 second. Did you just say that she's standing on one of his feet with her heel and just, like, storking her other leg up in the air, so she's essentially standing on his foot with 1 foot and
Yes.
okay, let's keep going. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure that I
Yeah,
had a clear picture.
the toes of her heeled foot are on one of his feet.
That's it? She's just literally, like, balancing on oh my god, okay. Alright.
Yes, and then when she's dancing with Jacob, she has one foot on the ground and the other one is just kind of tilted so it's no weight on it.
So, essentially, did they put, like, grease on the bottom of her shoe or something, so she's just turning in place with the person she's dancing with or something? Because how
I
does that
think they're just swaying back and forth.
okay, well, okay, that's fine. Okay, that's good. Good. I'm glad. I'm glad to know. I just wanted to make sure I was clear on that.
Jacob warns Bella that Billy wants her to break up with her boyfriend, and I this is one of my favorite panels. It's Jacob just looking like his eyebrows are furrowed, but he looks a little annoyed almost. And he's like, Billy wanted me to tell you, no, warn you that. And he's making quotation marks with his fingers. We'll be watching. That's his plural, not mine. I feel like Jacob has so much personality in his expressions.
And, like, just the few because Jacob really isn't in this book very much at all. So, like, I do appreciate that they really, like, gave him some personality, like, the few times he does turn up.
Me too, because the little he was here is very memorable. And in general, young Tim just does a great job with everybody's expressions. And then Edward comes back over looking pissed, and he's like, I'll take it from here. He is sick of Jacob and Bella dancing. And Bella's like, don't be mad at Billy. He just worries about me for Charlie's sake. And Edward's like, well, I promised I wouldn't let go of you tonight, and I broke my promise. And Bella's like, well, I forgive you. And Edward's like, when he called you pretty, you look more than beautiful.
Like, he's all pissed. Yeah, he's like, "'Cause Jacob said you were pretty, and that's an insult." And I'm just like, "Oh my god, calm down."
The amount of jealousy Edward feels is not proportional to the reality of how much Bella only has eyes for him.
Exactly. No, I feel the same way. And soon we will find out that it's all the little zygote of freaking Riki Tiki Tabby imprinting on him. Anyways, we're several books away, guys. It's gonna be soon.
They walk out of the dance outside of the school, and Edward says, it's Twilight again.
They said the name of the book.
They did, and Edward's like, well, what did you think I was dressing you up for? And Bella's like, I don't want to tell you, and she's holding her head in her hand and biting her lip and looking very embarrassed. And she's like, I was hoping you would change your mind after all. And he's like, you thought that would be a black tie occasion, did you?
Oh, that's another one of the lines that I can predict every single time.
And she says it feels more rational than prom does, and the only reason prom was tolerable is because Edward was there. And he grabs her and dips her as if they're dancing and is like, are you really that willing? And puts his lips on her neck. And she's like, do it, bitch, you won't. And he's like, yeah, you're right, I won't.
Oh, that's just such a perfect way to describe it. Cause yeah, she's literally like, do it. Do it. You're not gonna do it. Do it.
And she says, a girl can dream. And he says that he loves her and she loves him more than everything in the world combined. Isn't that enough? And they're like, and she's like, it's enough for now. And then they kiss, and we get a full spread page that's in full color of them kissing in front of a crescent moon, and it's very cute.
Very, very cute.
And that's the end of the book. And then the Google Play books added an animation when you finish a book where confetti falls down. And I like that. I felt accomplished when I finished reading this.
I know. I thought that was cute too. I feel like, I guess how else are they really supposed to end the graphic novel? But like I feel like that's just kinda like It's like a very anticlimactic ending. It's just sort of like it just stops.
Yeah, if they had just ended the whole series here, it wrapped up in that way that movies do, where it's like, "And then they were together happily ever
And
after,
they
the end."
rode off into the sunset. Yeah, that's essentially what this is. But yeah, that was the second volume of the graphic novel, Twilight, the graphic novel, and I also really liked it. I think that maybe I enjoyed this one possibly a smidge less than the first volume, just because I feel like the first volume there was, like, a lot of exposition and stuff in this volume that I just kind of felt was maybe a little clunky. I thought the first volume flowed a little better and just kind of felt cuter somehow.
Agree with that. I thought that the pacing of this book was a bit off, which could just be a flaw of Twilight itself, but it felt like it was very heavy on the exposition in the first third of the book, and I feel like it took the amount of time to get through the first third of the book that it did the last 2 thirds. So it was very slow and then sped up as you went further through the book, and not in a good way. It's not like it picked up and became more exciting, it just felt uneven.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of what I mean, and I think I mentioned earlier that I think that there is a grand total of 4, maybe 5 locations in this entire graphic novel. It just like, I agree, it feels uneven. And I think that was kind of why I was a bit, like, not shocked because I knew that it was gonna be 2 volumes, obviously, before we started reading, but when they cut it off in the first one, I think I commented, I'm like, "So they're basically just cramming all of the s like, the stuff that really happens into the second book," and I think that was what made it feel so uneven.
That's kind of how Twilight is, though.
It is, it's exactly how Twilight is. Twilight itself feels very uneven. It's like nothing happens until you get, like, a good little more than halfway through the story, and then the entire plot happens in, like, the last third of the book. But, like, I don't know, I feel like it feels weirder in a graphic novel format just because of the way that manga is usually set up.
Yeah, it just felt a little strange, but I think it could just be a flaw that Twilight
No, I
has.
agree with you. It's the source material. It was not young Kim. Like, obviously, like, she is very constrained in her storytelling ability by, like, literally telling this story. She has to tell the story that exists.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it, like, kind of it's a flaw in the source material, not of young Kim. I still think that she did a phenomenal job. She also very much, like, I think I mentioned earlier, kept all of the parts from the book and the movie that I was like, "Oh, that's really important. That line is very memeable and very important to be said," and most of those things were in here. Like, categorically do not take back the fact that I think young Kim did an incredible job with this graphic novel. It's just the source material.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything. It's just Twilight is just written a little funky, and I did enjoy this, and not as much as the first one for the same reason. The pacing just was strange.
It was
But I
cool.
am still excited to read New Moon Part 1.
Oh,
I'm sad there's only a Part 1, but
yes,
we're
no,
still gonna read it.
me too. We're definitely gonna read it, and I'm really curious about where they're gonna chop that one and how that's gonna work.
Oh my god, me too.
We'll probably read New Moon, the book version, and release some content about that before we get around to doing the graphic novel, just because that kind of feels like the natural order of things. But we are in talks, so that might be sooner than we think.
Yes, very excited for that. Do you have any final thoughts on the book? Should we rate it?
Yeah, I think let's rate it. I think those were pretty much my final thoughts. I think young Kim did an amazing job, but I just think the source material is a little funky and it is what it is, but I genuinely loved the graphic novel version of this story. I do think, though, that as far as rating goes, then as on my enjoyability scale, I might have to give this one a 4 just because of the pacing issues, which is not
Also thinking of
the
4.
fault of the book or the artist or anything like that. It's the source material, but it does still have to
It
be a
doesn't
4.
change the fact that it did detract from the enjoyment, and I was also thinking 4.
Yeah.
But on the Twilight scale, this was very true to Twilight.
It's very Twilighty. It continues to be very Twilighty. It's all honestly almost makes improvements to some, like, little kind of minor things that was an issue for me. Especially, I love the chemistry between Bella and Edward in the graphic novel. I think it's so much genuinely better.
I agree. Yeah, I really agree. I think I would give this one 5 on the Twilight scale.
Yeah, 5.
5 out of
I
5.
think that we're both in complete concurrence. I think that as far as enjoyability, graphic novel volume 2 gets a 2, but on the Twilight scale, we give full marks because well done, young Kim.
I think this is worth picking up even if it was a little slower, but, yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, I definitely would still recommend it. I think that it's definitely like, it'd be hard to recommend on its own, obviously. Like, I think you definitely need to read both volume 1 and volume 2, but I still recommend it overall.
Me too. You definitely get some extra stuff that you're not getting in the book or the movie that you do get here, and I'm glad that this exists.
And it's so cute. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode. I really hope that you liked this in this format. This reviewing graphic novels has been really fun. We've been liking it, and I really hope that you guys do too.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, and we're going to be back with New Moon soon. Probably the book, but we're definitely going to get into the graphic novel and the movie and all that more juicy Twilight stuff. So come back, leave us a comment. If you're on Spotify, leave us a rating, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, leave us a rating on any podcast player and a comment on YouTube, please, and thank you. Bye.
Bye.